Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us for this minimalist explainer today. We're going to be doing something, well, honestly kind of incredible. We're going to upgrade your cognitive architecture. Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by all the complex information out there, or if you've just been totally paralyzed by a tough choice, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to take all that loud, messy noise of the world and compress it into clear, actionable understanding. So let's get right to it. Okay. Let's dive into this. Here's our quick roadmap to get us out of the fog and into clarity. We'll hit the pressure of decisions, what mental models actually are, the hidden danger of using just one tool, some really powerful models in action, and finally, how to build your very own latticework. So, starting off with section 1, the pressure of decisions and making choices. We really need to start by confronting a universal pain point. I mean, why do we make such bad decisions under pressure? It's a totally crucial question, right? Because the stakes are incredibly high. Think about it. Whether you're leading a team, managing your personal investments, or literally just trying to get through a chaotic Tuesday, high-stakes situations are super taxing on our brains. When complexity clouds our judgment, the outcomes can be anything from a minor headache to an absolute strategic disaster. And the culprit? Well, it points right back to our emotions. Emotions just have a way of getting the best of us. They make us worry, they make us argue, and they definitely cause us to procrastinate. All of this pressure creates this incredibly dense, stress-induced mental fog. And right when clarity matters the absolute most, that fog leaves us completely vulnerable to making bad calls. Moving right along to section 2, what are mental models, and how do they help us navigate reality? Basically, a mental model is just a tool. It's a simulation you run in your head for navigating the world. Expert Blasmaros describes it as something that helps you effectively and efficiently navigate reality. The sheer beauty of a mental model is that it takes massive, overwhelming complexity and compresses it down into these manageable, bite-sized chunks that your brain can actually process and use on the fly. A great way to think about this is the map versus the territory. Just like a physical map highlights the really key information, the main roads, the rivers, while completely ignoring all the little irrelevant details, mental models are simplified explanations. They highlight exactly what you need to know to make a solid decision. But, and this is important, you have to remember that the map is not the actual terrain. It's just an approximation to help you find your way without getting lost in the weeds. Which brings us to section 3. The danger of having just one tool and how we can avoid some massive blind spots. Now, what's really interesting here is this famous concept known as Maslow's hammer. The quote goes, "I suppose it is tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail." This perfectly highlights the profound danger of getting overly reliant on just one single concept or discipline. Think about it. If you literally only have that one hammer, you're going to end up forcing complex, multifaceted problems into the wrong shape just so you can use the one tool you're comfortable with. But if you have many tools, a really diverse mental toolbox that you've drawn from all sorts of different disciplines, you drastically reduce those blind spots. It's a real game changer. To really cement this idea, let's look at the classic analogy of the blind men and the elephant. As the old story goes, several blind men touch different parts of an elephant. One grabs the tusk, one the trunk, another the leg, and each one genuinely believes the animal is something completely different, like a spear or a snake or a tree trunk. They were all partly in the right, but all entirely in the wrong. A lack of diverse perspectives leaves us entirely blind to the bigger picture. All right, section 4. Let's look at some powerful models in action and see these tools in practice. First up, we have Galilean Relativity. This is a physical science principle originally conceptualized by Galileo and later formalized by Isaac Newton. It basically asserts that motion and observation are completely frame-dependent. Put simply, there is absolutely no single universally correct frame of reference. To see how this builds, just imagine Galileo's famous thought experiment. Picture a scientist below the decks of a smoothly moving ship who drops a ball. To that scientist, the ball just drops straight down, right? Standard gravity at work. But to an external observer, let's just say a fish with X-ray vision watching the ship glide past, that exact same ball is moving both vertically and horizontally. This is such a brilliant illustration of how perspective-taking works. It forces us to stop and ask, wait, what does this problem actually look like from outside my own ship? The second model we're looking at is systems thinking. This is all about understanding systems as interconnected wholes, rather than just isolated independent parts. It forces us to zoom out. We shift our focus away from single, isolated events, and instead we start looking at the relationships, the feedback loops, and the emergent properties of a complex environment. And the absolute crucial mechanism here is the feedback loop. So an input leads to a system action, which then generates feedback, and that feedback directly influences the very next input. According to our sources, these feedback loops are literally the engines of growth and change within any system. To really drive home exactly why this is so essential, I want you to imagine walking through a fully furnished room, completely blindfolded, and wearing noise-canceling headphones. Man, that would be a painful, bruising lesson. Because without any sensory feedback telling you where the couch or the coffee table is, you just can't adapt your path. Feedback loops are quite literally essential for our survival and our ability to adapt. And finally, Section 5, building your latticework and creating a robust cognitive architecture. To actually build this architecture, I want you to consider this number, 200. Expert Blas Morrow suggests that there are a little less than 200 core disciplines in the world. We're talking things like physics, chemistry, biology, economics. To have a complete, reliable roadmap for navigating life, you need to slowly curate and interconnect the really big ideas from across all of these fields into a mental latticework. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, so to organize this massive amount of information, our sources suggest using the 3 buckets framework. To build a truly reliable worldview, a robust idea actually needs to validate across 3 distinct domains: the physical sciences, the biological sciences, and human systems. If an idea holds true across all 3 of those, you've got yourself a foundational mental model. Let's actually see this in action with a concept like reciprocation. In the physical bucket, it's Newton's third law, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Then in the biological bucket, it manifests as evolutionary grooming and coordinated difference among animals. And finally, in the human systems bucket, it shows up as social tit-for-tat dynamics, where cooperation invites cooperation and negativity invites retaliation. So this one single concept survives the test of all 3 buckets, building this incredibly compelling story of cross-disciplinary truth. Which brings us to a really provocative question that I want to leave you with today. How will you start building your very own mental latticework today? You now know for a fact that relying on just one tool leaves you totally blind, and that pulling from diverse disciplines is what actually clears the mental fog. So I highly encourage you to take action. Go out there, seek diverse knowledge, upgrade your decision-making, and never ever stop adding to your mental toolbox. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy learning!